The people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
Well, you get her on the phone right now and tell her she's got to go through with it. I moved my schedule all around to accommodate this lunch, and I'm not about to... Yes, I know what time it is. If her beauty sleep gets interrupted, tough. Hold on, I've got another call. Trisha Vanderhook speaking.
Mom, you gotta help me.
Tag? Where are you?
At school. I've been shot. And, oh God, stay back.
Is this another one of your tricks? I told you, you're not getting another dime out of me, sonny boy.
What do you want from me? I'm sorry, okay? It wasn't personal.
Tag, can you hear me? Say something.
What's the nature of your emergency?
It's my son. Let me through, damn it! I'm his mother. Oh!
Friendly tip, Ray. If you ever decide to get murdered, don't call your mom first. See if you can calm her down, Martinez, okay? Get her some water or something. We're gonna need to question her once we're done here. So, what do we know about the workout king?
Tag Vanderhook, 18 years old, set to graduate from this school next month.
Nice scar on his face. Any other distinguishing marks?
Yeah, 2 bullet holes. First one passed through him here in the side and took him down. Second one got him in the heart.
That'll do it. Well, I guess we're looking for evidence of motive, traces of the killer.
Anything that'll give us information about the crime. Looks like our Vic grabbed this to staunch the bleeding.
Before the second bullet finished him off. That the phone our Vic used to call his mom?
Probably. So last call was made at 6:05. Lasted 28 seconds.
And ended with a bang.
The door's spring-loaded, and it's got a keypad lock. Whoever shot our Vic must have had the code to get in.
Or the kid opened the door for his killer.
Look, trophy case has been smashed.
Track and field awards. There's a medal missing from the display.
Whoever snatched it wasn't too careful. Part of the ribbon's still attached.
Kid got killed over a track medal?
Here. First bullet, the one that got him in the side.
Then a shooter must have been standing about here.
It's a long way from the door. This wasn't some drive-by. Our killer got pretty close to the victim before letting him have it.
A little exchange of pleasantries before getting down to business. This gymnasium was presented, blah, 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 generous donation from the Vanderhook family.
Vanderhook? That's our victim's name.
Somebody didn't appreciate the generous donation.
Emmy should be able to tell us if... Hey, what's this?
Where?
In the kid's mouth. It looks like... Wait a minute. Check it out.
A medal?
From the trophy case.
Mrs. Vanderhook, we know you've been through quite a shock, but we're hoping you can answer a few questions.
We're very sorry for your loss.
I don't want sympathy. I want justice.
Of course.
This may be painful for you to hear, Mrs. Vanderhook. We found this medal in your son's mouth. Does it tell you anything?
Yes, somebody didn't like my son. Tag has a talent for making enemies. He and New Amsterdam Prep are like oil and water. Last month he was thrown off the wrestling team. Last year he was badly injured in a fistfight.
Would that be how he got the scar?
I'm afraid so. Spoiled that handsome face, but what did he care? Tag had what one might euphemistically call an assertive personality. Came with the territory, him being a Vanderhook.
Should I recognize the name Vanderhook?
Only if you're ambitious, detective. We prefer to stay out of the limelight. But think of the names you do know in this town. None of them would have succeeded without the Vanderhook blessing. Take New Amsterdam Prep. We Vanderhooks had everything to do with building its reputation and keeping it afloat. Just last summer I gave the school a new gym.
This gym?
Yes, detectives. The very gym in which my son was killed. The irony is not lost on me.
What did your son say to you when he called? Did he give you any indication of the killer's identity?
He tried, but I didn't give him the chance. You see, I thought it was all just a trick to get me to cough up money.
Think. Did he say anything at all that can help us?
He said he was sorry.
To you?
No, to the killer. He said it wasn't personal.
Do you know why Tag came here today?
To work out.
Before school hours. How'd he get in?
All the students have keys to the main entrance. It's part of the school's philosophy. To show we trust them.
But the weight room was locked. Takes a key code to get in.
Yes, that room is for the athletes only. He had access through his membership on the wrestling team.
Didn't you say he got kicked off the wrestling team?
So he was breaking the rules. That's why he came to work out before school hours. Are you going to put him on report?
I know boys his age sometimes tend to keep their problems bottled up. Did Tag and you communicate?
Yes, detective. We had a model relationship. He told me everything and I denied him nothing.
Pardon me for bringing this up, but if that was the case, why would he resort to tricks to get you to cough up money?
Excuse me?
Didn't you say you jumped to that conclusion when he called you?
This is how you work, is it? Seizing on every little contradiction and throwing it back in a person's face? Must be exhausting. As a matter of fact, our relationship did hit a rocky patch last month. April Fool's Day, to be exact. We had a rather nasty fight.
What did you fight about, if you don't mind my asking?
But I do mind your asking.
Listen, Mrs. Vanderhook, we're just trying to find your son's killer here.
Then I suggest you start doing that and stop prying into irrelevant personal issues. My son was a good boy, detectives, with a life of promise ahead of him. Now he's dead. That's all that's important.
I just don't understand how something like this could happen here at New Amsterdam Prep. We try so hard to model peaceful methods of conflict resolution.
A good example is the best sermon.
Benjamin Franklin. It's been my motto as headmistress.
Mrs. Boersma, do you have any idea who the murderer might be?
None. Tag was such a popular kid.
Mrs. Vanderhook told us he got in a lot of fights.
Yes, well, he was high-spirited, I suppose, but we all loved him. He was loaded with life.
Loaded is the word. What can you tell us about this medal?
State cross-country champion 1997. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I can rattle off academic records from memory, but sports records, that's another story. Is Coach Harvey in? Well, when he gets back, have him give me a call. I've got a question for him.
The weight room door has a keypad lock.
Yes, that's a recent change. Some students were complaining that certain athletes were monopolizing the equipment. The lock allows us to monitor who uses the facility and when. We issue a different code for each sports team, one for football, one for lacrosse, and so forth.
Can you tell us who entered this morning?
Certainly. I just have to check the record. That's odd.
What?
There were 2 codes entered this morning. I recognize the second one. That's the code for the golf team. But the one that was entered at 5:40, that doesn't match any of the codes we issued.
Administrative code, maybe?
No, I've never seen it before. 01010.
You said the first code was entered at 5:40. What time was the second code entered?
6:08.
$6:08? That's after the murder.
The killer went out and came back in?
Maybe the medal in the mouth stunt was an afterthought.
Coach Harvey? Yes, I know, just ghastly. Tell me something. The first place state medal for cross country from 97. Yes. Can you tell me who... Harris, of course. No, that's all, thank you. The student who won that medal is dead. His name was Harrison Bedford.
Harrison Bedford, the preppy jogger.
That's right, he was a student here. May 17th, 1998. Almost exactly a year ago.
You followed the case?
We conducted the case, and please, you don't have to remind us we blew it.
I'm sure you tried your best. Such a tragic loss.
Could the 2 murders be related? Were Harrison and Tag enemies?
Well, not to my knowledge. We encourage our students to rise above petty feuds. Semper et infirmi est animi exeguique voluptus ultio.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Harrison Bedford had a brother in middle school, didn't he?
Not anymore. Franklin's here at New Amsterdam this year. He's a freshman.
What about the girlfriend? What's her name?
Allison Conway.
Yes, she's a senior, transferred here at the start of the school year, sponsored by Mr. Bedford.
Are both kids in school today?
Well, they should be. Yes. Oh, I remember seeing Allison's Mercedes in the lot when I arrived.
We'll need to talk to them.
But they're in class. I hate to disrupt the students' education.
It's our education I'm thinking about right now.
So, Allison Conway goes to prep school now.
Mr. Bedford is a generous fellow.
Probably helps that Allison gave birth to his grandson.
Here's one case where being a teenage mother moves you up the social scale.
Detective Briscoe, Detective Curtis.
Nice to see you, too.
I guess this is about Tag Vanderhook?
News travels fast.
We'd like to ask you a few questions.
You know, there's another murder that's still unsolved.
Right. We're investigating whether there might be a connection. Where were you at 6 o'clock this morning?
6 o'clock? I was at home.
Home is still in Brooklyn?
No, I live with the Bedfords now, ever since Brendan was born. I thought you knew that.
Memory's the first thing to go.
Can anyone confirm your whereabouts?
Sure, the whole household was up at 6. Brendan was throwing one of his famous tantrums. He's got a scream that could shatter glass. I tried to sneak canned baby food onto his plate and he caught on. So I have to go down to the kitchen and mix him up a fresh batch in the blender.
Kid's got discriminating tastes.
He's a Bedford.
Did you know the victim?
Tag? Sure. I mean, a little. This is a small school. It's hard not to know everybody a little. And Tag wasn't the type to blend into the woodwork.
How long have you known him?
Since September, I guess.
What'd you think of him?
Everyone kowtowed to Tag because of his mom's money. He liked to brag about his conquests in class, and the teachers were too spineless to shut him up. I kept my distance.
So you weren't one of his conquests?
God, no. As if.
Franklin Bedford's supposed to be in gym right now, but we didn't see him on the basketball court.
He's off with the golf team at the Chelsea Piers driving range. They've got a big tournament coming up, and the coach has them all practicing their swings. What? Check with Mr. Tate if you don't believe me.
Golf on a day like this. It's been pouring all morning.
The driving range is covered now.
Must have happened after they revoked your membership. Something peculiar about this murder.
Tag had a medal shoved in his mouth. Harrison's medal, right?
How do these things get out?
It's a high school, detective? So, who do you think put it in there? Harrison's ghost?
Would he have reason to? Did he have something against Tag?
When me and Harrison were together, we didn't waste time talking about Tad Vanderhook, okay? But he did stick up for me once when Tag was a real ass.
I thought you first met Tag this past September.
Yeah. Not counting that house party last spring.
Tell us about that house party.
Harrison wanted to introduce me to his prep school friends. Tag wasn't invited, but he showed up anyway. About midnight. He got in my face and called me Harrison's little Brooklyn bitch. Harrison got him in a headlock and made him apologize. Totally humiliated him. It was awesome.
And that was the end of it? Tag ran off with his tail between his legs?
I don't really remember how it ended, to be honest. I was pretty wasted at the time. I passed out not too long afterwards.
You live in the same house as Franklin. Was he there at 6?
Sure, I assume.
You didn't see him.
No, I mean, he would have still been asleep at that hour.
You told us nobody could sleep on account of your baby.
Nobody except Franklin, I meant. That kid could sleep through anything.
Did you actually see Franklin this morning?
No.
Tag insults you. Harrison attacks Tag. And later, Harrison is dead. I guess people must have pointed fingers.
At Tag? Like I said, I hardly knew him. When you guys ruled him out as a suspect, I never gave him another thought.
What about the people who did know him?
I guess a lot of the kids around here kept on thinking he might have been involved.
Did Tag do anything to dispel their suspicions?
Tag was a bully. I think he liked having people think he was a killer, especially the younger kids.
Kids like Franklin.
Thanks, Allison. We'll be in touch.
You think our boy Franklin is the killer?
Pieces seem to fit.
So, if he entered the golf team code to get back into the weight room after the murder, who entered the first code?
The mystery code? Well, could have been Tag himself. His weight room privileges were revoked when he got kicked off the wrestling team, but his mom said he was good at getting around the rules.
So then Tag let Franklin in.
Not realizing the kid had a gun and meant business.
It's a good theory. Not enough evidence for an arrest.
Not yet. Come on, let's find some.
Can't you just talk to him when he gets back from the driving range?
We intend to do that, but in the meantime, we need to take a look in his locker.
Oh, you can't do that without a warrant.
No, but you can. New Jersey versus TLO. Back in '85, Supreme Court decided school administrators have the right to search lockers, provided they have just cause for suspicion.
You've done your homework, Detective. I'm impressed. Still, I don't know. Franklin Bedford's always been a well-behaved student.
We think Franklin blamed Tag for his brother's death.
Oh, dear. I'm not unaware of the rumors that have been circulating around the school.
Revenge is a powerful motivator, Mrs. Boersma.
I suppose I should open that locker for you. Here it is, number 224. What exactly are you expecting to find?
We'll know it when we see it. Bingo.
See you at lunch, Tyler.
Franklin Bedford, where were you this morning at 6?
Why? What's this about?
Little matter of a murder weapon we found in your locker. Care to explain? Book him.
You are under arrest for the murder of Tag Vanderhook. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to a lawyer.
No confession yet?
Not a word. They must teach counter-interrogation at that fancy prep school.
Time to turn up the pressure.
Good cop, bad cop?
Mm-hmm. He's only 15. He's not too old to cry. You get him there, then I'll turn on the compassion and bring him home.
I'm sick of waiting for a confession from this punk. We got the weapon, we got the motive. At this point, he's just wasting our time.
Go easy, Detective. Come on, Franklin. Come clean. It'll be a lot easier for everybody if you do.
My client maintains he's innocent.
Give me a break. We already know you were out of the house before 6. So if you weren't busy drilling holes in Tag Vanderhook, where the hell were you?
My client prefers not to disclose this information this time.
Need a little more time to cook up an alibi? Don't rush on our account. Daddy's not going to make this one go away, kid. We're staying here till we get the truth. You hated Tag, didn't you? Of course you did. Harrison didn't like him a bit, and you wanted to be just like Harrison.
Don't talk about my brother.
Franklin, it's okay.
Sure, Harrison was your hero. Great athlete, big man on campus, the perfect older brother. But the hero died, and his enemy went on living. It must have burned you up every time you saw Tag's smirking face in the hall. Knowing how he got away with murder.
Shut up, shut up! You don't know what really happened.
Don't take the bait.
Everybody knew Tag killed your brother, but nobody could touch him. There he was, walking around free, laughing about Harrison, telling everybody what a loser Harrison was.
Lies, it was all lies! He was a damn liar, and so are you. He deserved it. He deserved what he got.
Franklin, watch yourself.
Sure, you had every right to be outraged. And you had access to a gun?
My dad's safe. I found the combination.
So you stashed it in your locker, and when the opportunity presented itself...
But I didn't. I wanted to. I admit it. I brought the gun to school, but then everybody started whispering, and I couldn't go through with it. I wasn't the one who shot Tag, I swear!
Then who did?
I don't know.
Close enough to a confession for me.
Docket number 4258677. People versus Franklin Bedford. Felony murder in the first degree.
How does your client plead, Mr. Vance?
Innocent, Your Honor.
Your Honor, the people request bail in the amount of $500,000.
That's excessive. My client is a juvenile.
So was the victim. Franklin Bedford shot him in cold blood and then returned to desecrate the body. Under the circumstances, $500,000 is warranted.
Last year, I had a young man disappear to Europe after making bail on a drunk driving charge. I'd like to see Franklin stick around. $500,000.
Fine. I'll cut you a check. You bastards aren't gonna take him from me.
Mr. Bedford.
Ha! This is... You can't find Harrison's killer, and now you want to haul Franklin off on trumped-up charges. Well, we're gonna beat you. Don't you worry, son. We're gonna win this thing.
Mr. Bedford,
It's in the
you are
bag.
out of order.
The gun must be ruled inadmissible.
The gun is the critical piece of evidence in the case, Your Honor.
Illegal search and seizure. It was obtained without a warrant.
The police were within their rights. New Jersey versus TLO established that school administrators can search students' lockers given reasonable cause for suspicion. The circumstances of the crime naturally threw suspicion on the accused.
And the locker was in fact opened by an administrator.
By the headmistress, yes.
Then I'm dismissing the motion to suppress.
Mr. Bedford, is your son capable of murder?
Of course not. Why, Franklin helped to organize the Youth Anti-Violence March in the park last fall.
Objection. Irrelevant. The defendant's opposition to violence in the abstract can't be taken as evidence against his propensity for actual violence.
Sustained. Please strike that from the record.
Tag Vanderhook was shot at 6 a.m. May 6th.
At which time Franklin was home.
You can swear to this?
With pleasure. Now, let's be honest. This trial is a farce. My son has been targeted because he's a Bedford. Certain factions in this city want to see us cut down to size.
Objection. The defendant is speculating about the people's motives. We intend to prove this case on the evidence.
Objection sustained. You're not doing yourself any favors, Mr. Bedford.
Tell us about your interactions with your son on the morning of the 6th.
I woke up about 5:15 to the sound of his golf swing. And that happens every morning in season. He likes to practice in the yard at sunrise. We had breakfast together half an hour later, as usual, and after that I dropped him off at school.
You drove him personally?
Yes, as a matter of fact. Usually he rides with Allison, but she took the bus that day.
Your witness, Mr. McCoy.
Mr. Bedford, are you aware that perjury is a federal offense?
I stand by my testimony.
All of it? You testified that Franklin's golf practice woke you up.
Yes, he's very committed to improving his drive. I fully support him in his ambition, but unfortunately the backyard borders my bedroom.
Your son must be very committed, considering it was pouring rain on the morning of the murder.
He may have been practicing in the study. I don't recall.
Practicing his drive in the study. I hope you don't have any Tiffany lamps in there. You two had breakfast together.
As we do every morning.
Allison Conway said she never saw Franklin that morning.
Well, of course she wouldn't. As a rule, Allison stays in her room with the baby till it's time for her to go to school.
Allison told us she had been down to the kitchen that morning.
What can I say? The two of them just missed each other.
You personally drove Franklin to school?
In the Mercedes, yes. Allison was delayed by the baby that morning, as I recall, so she had to catch a bus.
Mrs. Boersma, the headmistress, told us that Allison drove the Mercedes to school that morning.
She was mistaken.
The murder weapon was found in Franklin's locker. Perhaps you can tell the court where it came from.
I have no idea where it came from. Well, it was obviously planted there by the murderer.
Mr. Bedford, Franklin has already confessed to taking that gun from your safe.
Yes, well, all right, but not to pulling the trigger. I'm telling you, he was framed. Franklin was framed.
What's that? Your Honor, my client has some information to impart privately.
Are you requesting a recess?
I think I'm requesting a continuance.
Yes, Franklin Bedford was here that morning. He signed in at 5:48, and the nurse processed his paperwork at 6:40.
Are you sure it was May 5th? This is very important, Dr. Markovich.
Quite sure. Tissue samples arrived at the DNA lab at 10 a.m. on the same day. Results haven't come back yet.
DNA lab? Can you tell me the nature of the test?
Franklin hasn't said?
No.
Then I'm afraid I have to invoke doctor-patient privilege.
Okay, out with it.
Huh?
You were willing to risk going to jail rather than admit you were at the clinic on the morning of the murder.
So? The alibi checked out. As far as you're concerned, that's where the matter ends.
The matter ends when my curiosity is satisfied. Why did you visit the clinic on May 5th?
They think I might have AIDS.
Nice try. Your tissues were sent to a DNA lab. They don't test for AIDS by analyzing your DNA.
All right, it's not AIDS. It's a genetic disease. I don't remember what it's called.
If it's a genetic disease, then your dad's at risk. Let's call him right now.
Wait. I went in for a paternity test. I brought them a tissue sample from Allison's baby to find out if Harrison's really the father.
If not Harrison, then who?
Tag.
Tag?
I ran into him the Sunday before he died, when I was out pushing Brendan in his stroller. He started talking smack, acted like he was gonna mess with the baby. I told him to get back, and he was like, doesn't a father have rights anymore?
That's it.
Well, you know, it made me start to wonder.
Let me get this straight. Based on one smartass comment from Tag, you made arrangements to get a paternity test, then risked a murder conviction to keep it a secret? You took him that seriously?
Yeah, I took him seriously. Tag wasn't the kind of guy to tell lies for no reason.
You told Detective Briscoe and Curtis that Tag told nothing but lies.
Yeah, but...
And you've been telling nothing but lies in this interview. Why didn't you tell the truth?
I wanted to protect Allison. She doesn't know about it.
She doesn't know? What do you mean she doesn't know?
I can't explain.
Is the paternity test a lie as well?
No, look, I didn't believe Tag at first. Like you said, the dude was a liar, and I knew Allison couldn't stand him. But he kept needling me about it, telling me that Harrison knew all about him and Allison, and then, a couple days later, this came in the mail.
Enjoy the show. Everybody else has. I haven't seen my share of the box office, but that's about to change. Tag.
Don't say anything to my dad, okay? He might take it bad, and Allison, she's part of the family now, her and Brendan. I just don't want to be the one who spoils it.
Okay, boys and girls, here she is in all her glory. Allison Conway, Harrison Bedford's little Brooklyn bitch. Poor girl can't hold her Jack and Coke.
This must have been shot at that party last spring.
That's right. Allison told us she passed out that night, and there's the evidence. I assume our narrator is Tag.
Miss Allison here is attempting to sleep her way into high society, literally. Too bad she never learned the rule. You can't rise without the Vanderhook blessing.
I think I know where this is going.
So just to prove what a big-hearted guy I am, I'm gonna give it to her anyway. Watch closely, Harrison, buddy.
And it goes on from there.
I can understand why Franklin didn't want this to get out. Allison is like a sister to him.
But what does this do for our case? If Franklin didn't do it...
Then somebody framed him. Someone who had access to the weight room and Franklin's locker.
Could be Allison herself, if she knows about the video.
I think we need to have another talk with her. Should we tell her everything up front?
We got no choice. Paternity of her child is in question. If she doesn't know that, she needs to.
Come on, Ray, she's just a kid. Her world has already been blown apart once. Last thing she needs right now is news like this. Why not wait until the test results are in? If Harrison's the father, she never needs to learn about the video.
Is this about Tag's murder? I've told you everything I know.
We need you to think back further, to last year, just before Harrison was killed, but after that party where you first met Tag.
Did you notice anything different about Harrison after that? Something to do with his attitude towards Tag?
If there's something you haven't told us, for whatever reason.
You must be talking about the attack.
What attack?
Somebody ambushed Tag, split his face wide open. They never told us who did it, but the rumor was it was Harrison. I didn't know whether to believe it. I mean, I knew he was pissed at Tag for insulting me, but he wasn't the type to go postal like that.
When you say they never told you who attacked Tag, what do you mean? Who's they?
Mrs. Boersma and the secretaries. They heard the screams and ran out into the hall.
Wait, you're saying the fight happened at New Amsterdam?
If this is true, why didn't Mrs. Boersma say anything?
Beats me. I wasn't there. I'm just telling you what the other kids have told me. Supposedly, Mrs. Boersma hauled Harrison into her office, but it's not like he got expelled or anything. And then, a week after that, he was dead.
Why did nobody tell us this when we were investigating Harrison's murder? If what you're saying is true, then Tag had a motive.
Tag was already gone when Harrison was killed.
Gone? Gone where?
His mom pulled him out of school and sent him off to California to recuperate. They say she was furious with New Amsterdam, swore that the Vanderhooks were done with it.
But then she turned around and donated a gym to the school that summer.
And Tag was back in the fall, like nothing was wrong.
Something's wrong with this picture. Thanks for being forthcoming, Allison.
Sorry I didn't say anything before. I guess I didn't want you to think bad about Harrison. He was a gentleman.
I'm sure he was.
Furious at New Amsterdam? Of course I was furious. My son was savagely beaten in their halls. His face had to be sewn back together.
And yet you made a huge bequest just 3 weeks later. It doesn't square up. Why the change of heart?
Tag convinced me to do it. Despite what had happened, he was devoted to the school. He told me it was the one place in all the world where he felt truly accepted.
You told the police that Tag and New Amsterdam were like oil and water.
Did I? How odd.
It's time you told us the truth, Mrs. Vanderhook.
You're good. I like you. Yes, if you must know, the bequest was extorted from me. My reputation is the basis of my fortune, Miss Carmichael. Unfortunately, that makes me uniquely vulnerable to scandal. Somebody saw an opening and seized it. I would have been more forthcoming if I thought this had anything to do with my son's murder.
But Tag did figure in this scheme, didn't he? We've seen the video.
You have? That's not exactly the sort of thing that makes a mother proud, but then making Mother proud was never very high on Tag's to-do list.
What we want to know is, who else knew about it? Who was extorting you?
But surely you've already guessed. Our beloved headmistress, Karen Boersma. Though how she got a hold of the video, I'll never know.
She hauled Harrison into her office right after the fight. She must have forced it out of him then. It would explain why she didn't expel him.
However she got it, she understood immediately what it could do to my reputation. The son of Trisha Vanderhook? Forcing himself on some inebriated little tramp? On camera yet? The press would fight to get their claws on the footage. The price was steep, but it wasn't too much to pay for a guarantee that the video wouldn't get out. So I paid up, and that was the end of it.
Did Tag know you were being blackmailed on account of him?
No. As far as he knew, there were only 2 people in the world who knew about his little excursion into filmmaking, and one of them was dead.
Tag bragged to Franklin Bedford that the video was a box office hit.
Did he? How tacky.
He knew somebody was making money off it.
Yes, I suppose I did let the secret slip out.
Mrs. Boersma guaranteed that the video wouldn't get out? How could you be confident she wouldn't turn around and extort more money out of you next year?
I made sure she couldn't do that. In exchange for my generous donation, she gave me an insurance packet.
Meaning?
A handwritten statement of what she'd done, signed and dated. If the video gets out, so does her confession. Mutually assured destruction. Always good for keeping hostile superpowers quiet.
Do you still have this statement?
Yes, and I intend to hold on to it, unless you can prove this has something to do with Tag's murder.
When did you tell Tag about your arrangement with Mrs. Boersma?
April Fool's Day. He'd gone and wrecked his Maserati again, and he was expecting, no, demanding I should get it fixed for him. For once I put my foot down. Well, he flew into a childish rage, called me a cheapskate, started screaming about how I never did anything for him. So I let him know exactly what his shenanigans had cost me. It shut him up.
Tag made a comment about the video, that he was planning to get his share of the box office. Do you have any idea what he meant by that?
A few days before he died, Tag informed me that he no longer needed my money. He said he'd found another way to pay for the Maserati.
Did he say what that was?
I asked, but all he would say was, "A good example is the best sermon."
Extortion seems to be going around this season. I think we found your son's murderer.
Franklin Bedford.
Was framed. By Mrs. Boersma. She put that metal in his mouth, and she planted the gun in his locker.
But why? That little matter between her and me was resolved to our mutual satisfaction.
But not to Tag's satisfaction. He saw how his headmistress had profited off his video, and he figured turnabout was fair play. After all, you're not the only one who can be severely damaged by a scandal. Probably never realized how far she might go to avoid one.
Tag? Extort Karen Boersma? He might be reckless enough to try it, I'll grant you, but it would have been his word against hers. He had nothing to hold against her unless... Excuse me a minute, would you? The insurance policy is gone. Karen Boersma's signed confession. It's missing from the safe.
Did you make a copy of it?
No. He's the only one who could have taken it. But could he really be reckless enough to... Look who I'm talking about. Of course he could.
We can bring her to justice without it, if you'll agree to testify.
No, absolutely not. As I've explained to you, I can't afford scandal.
But what about Tag?
If trashing my reputation could bring him back, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But it wouldn't. Tag's dead, but the Vanderhook name still lives. Its power is based on perception.
Mine is based on truth, and if you won't help me expose the truth about who killed Tag, I'll find someone who can.
New Amsterdam Preparatory Academy.
Could I speak to Mrs. Boersma, please? This is Franklin Bedford. I feel kind of funny about this. I mean, she's my headmistress.
And she framed you for murder. Do you want to see her get away with it?
No way. But I don't know what to say to her.
You don't want to get her mad or scared, but you do want to let her know you're onto her game, and you want a piece of the action. Play it exactly the way Tag would have played it.
We'll cue you along. You'll be fine.
Franklin, how nice of you to call. I was so relieved when they dropped the charges against you. Of course, I never stopped believing in your innocence.
Thanks.
I'm sorry that the board voted to drop you from the class roster. Purely a business decision, you understand. I assume that's why you're calling. You want me to reinstate you?
Say yes.
Yeah, that's what I want.
I'm afraid, well, the board has a point in that with all the publicity surrounding your case, reinstating you now would be too disruptive. Perhaps we can arrange for you to continue your lessons at home until the scandal subsides.
Tell her there's another scandal she should be worried about.
There's another scandal you should be worried about.
What's that?
Tell her you know where the new gym came from.
I know where the new gym came from.
Of course, everybody does. It was a very generous gift from Trisha Vanderhook.
You've got a copy of her confession.
Nah, that gym was no gift. I've got a copy of a paper here that says it was blackmail.
What do you want from me?
Tell her you want to meet.
Let's meet and, talk things over.
Where?
The workout room. Midnight.
The workout room. Midnight tonight.
You do have a flair for the theatrical, don't you? All right. Merely out of curiosity, you understand. I'm not admitting to anything.
Mrs. Boersma.
What? What are you doing? How dare
You're
you?
under arrest for the murder of Tag Vanderhook.
You have no case against me.
Maybe not at the moment, but we will as soon as we pull the codes from this keypad lock. I'll lay you 7 to 1. The code you entered just now matches the one used on the day of the murder.
Listen, gentlemen, perhaps we can come to an arrangement. It isn't myself I'm thinking of. It's New Amsterdam Prep. A scandal would be very bad right now.
You should have thought of that before you launched your little extortion scheme.
I didn't set out to kill the boy, but he forced my hand. And anyway, he deserved it. He was a bully and a rapist and an extortionist to boot. Ending his vicious little life was a service to humanity.
Interesting defense. We'll see if the jury buys it.
Judge in the Boersma trial just passed sentence. 20 to life.
Like the man said, a good example is the best sermon.
Let's hope all his students were paying attention.
Verdict is in on the paternity test, too. Turns out Harrison was the father.
Happy endings all around at the Bedford house.
I don't know about that. We still don't have a lead on Harrison's killer. I kept hoping some new evidence would turn up at this trial, but no luck.
Maybe Tag did it after all.
If he did, he could have left us some proof before getting himself killed. I'd hate to go to my grave not knowing.
There's a lot we'll never know. Don't let it spoil your sleep.